Poop is potent, pal.
It is. Do you have the? Let's not say it on.
Do I have the?
In the banter? But do you have?
You can mime it if you need to. Oh yes.
Yeah.
I'll get you your writing utensil.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Because how are you supposed to write
Supposed
on paper
supposed to keep notes, bruh.
without a goddamn
How do I know what I'm saying before I
writing
say
utensil?
it when I don't say it? Okay.
Sweet Lord.
Yeah. Let's just jump right in.
Oh, the water's warm? I think it's pretty free.
Oh shit.
It's
We
pretty
didn't talk
treacherous.
about which number this was before we hit record, so I don't. Which number is this?
I fucking hope it's 12.
Oh god.
Well,
We're
if it's
gonna
not,
s-
if
we're
it's
gonna
not
s-
12, it's gonna be 12.
We're
And then
gonna-
we'll just put like a little precursor
We're-
on it, like this wasn't 12.
We're
Whenever we say 12, it was really 13.
because we're gonna say the number a lot, whatever number we settle on.
Or we could just agree to not say the number ever again, so we don't have to edit this out and go. Instead, so episode number 13 is going to be about, and then episode number 13 is, it's gonna sound weird. It's gonna be breaky. It's gonna be choppy.
All right,
Just-
so whatever. We're going.
we're going with 12.
We're going with
We're
12.
confidently being
Okay.
wrong at 12, and we're never saying it again.
The second part is still open for discussion. Okay.
That's the important part.
Other than the podcast catcher that you're listening to this now, please find this episode over at wmdpodcast.com/12 because there you'll find comments, show notes, just a more enriching experience of this particular episode.
You want to have a taste of this sour right here? Just a little nipper.
Just give me
Just a little
whatever.
nips. Just to wet the whistle, so to speak.
I feel like
Don't. Well, I mean,
I
I,
feel like-
should do the read for it. If you're gonna read it,
I'm not. No, I'm not reading. I'm saying that your beer taste adventurism is. I'm not knocking it. I mean,
It's a sour.
you're just more adventurous
It's a
than
sour, but it's not a bad sour.
it ain't bad.
See?
I've had worse.
See?
You have steered me to far less green pastures before.
You're an asshole.
Well, facts.
Because not only did you semi-compliment me, but then took it right out from under me, but you also backhanded me. It was like you backhandedly complimented me. Someone should make that a phrase.
People can do that from time to time.
Hmm.
Anyway, so as I was thinking about today's topic, I was thinking, is there a meme for this? I don't know that there is one. I mean, there's plenty of stuff to mock, and there's plenty of like underlying unchecked premises that people rely on to say the kind of stuff that we're going to address today. But I don't know that there's necessarily a
maybe
meme.
it's like the meme with the cat up on the like telephone pole, like I see no God here other than me. Maybe. Apart from me?
You're gonna have to flesh that out a little bit. I don't know
No,
what you're
that's
referring
just
to.
the meme. Like it's just a cat on a telephone pole, and he said, "I see no God here, other than me."
Well, now that you've explained it, that has to go in the show notes page. But
It won't be hard. The most cursory Google search
but
yield results.
okay, all right. We're gonna quit, beating around the bush and just say, okay. So here's the thing.
Here's being a bush beater, Dane.
I like beating bushes.
That's not what I heard.
Here is what we're talking about today is the podcast, the Portland abductions. Okay, apparently, according to, I don't know, the victims of said abductions are sympathetic
Have
to
there
it.
been a lot of anal probing too?
Apparently,
I didn't know that there's a lot of sightings up there.
aliens, bro.
That's what I was thinking.
Giorgio Tuscaloosa.
Like cows.
Totally
Cow-
probably butchered his name, but you know what I'm talking about.
Tuscaloosa. Did I ever mention that I saw him in an airport?
You've told me 1,000 times.
You were there with me.
and I've
saying
told
that
you
it wasn't.
I've told you that's not him.
I saw that something.
But whatever. Okay, so
Just because he didn't stick a finger in an electrical socket that day does not make it not him.
Okay, so Portland abductions. Let's we're going to give a very cursory kind of factual layout of this thing and then talk about the way people are framing the discussion around it as pertains to people of our particular persuasion. Non-aggression principle, libertarian, yada, yada, yada. So without getting real deep into the facts, basically what's being alleged is federal agents, sometimes in uniform, sometimes not, are just swooping up in unmarked cars and abducting people off the streets of Portland.
It's kind of funny almost if it was like in a cartoon. It's like old school when they were rushing the house.
You see by calling it funny, you're falling right into their trap where they say principles or libertarians.
If you tell anybody about this, I'll fucking kill you. She's like, oh, he's like, I'm kidding. We'll have him home by 9. Like, if that was the case, it'd be funny.
Okay, so
that's not the case though, from what I gather.
Yeah, what we've heard. So again, federal agents showing up in unmarked cars, taking people off the streets without even telling them why they're there, what they're charged for. Obviously, that's a problem that we wouldn't support against anybody else because God knows that if the wrong people are in power, we'll return to that theme later, the same thing would be happening to people like us, anti-government that kind of thing. I guess nominally what's being said is the people being abducted are either Antifa members or at least Antifa adjacent, if I can use that term. I guess they're loosely being classified. Maybe they're explicitly being classified as terrorists, and that's the justification for it. And so this is happening. And a large part of the discussion around it is the left, who would be more politically sympathetic to these groups and these people who are the current targets of abduction, are mockingly saying, "Ho ho ho, yeah, look at those libertarians that are here."
Trying your hand at voices again.
The voice, I'm trying.
Is this one going to morph?
I might have a career brewing in this voiceover thing.
All right, so see.
Can I return to character?
Yeah, go to character. Boom.
Okay. Like all these libertarians. Yeah. All these libertarians that are like, I'm going to stockpile guns, I'm going to fight the government. Like, where are they now? Now that the government's like really abducting people, like, where are they? Like, they don't have any principles. Like, we all knew they were lying from the start. Like, that's the general. Hold on. That's a meme, so to speak. It's been going around.
So you started
about this
off
event.
Like creeper, and then you went hippie-ish creeper kind of guy. Is that the flow you're kind of going with?
Listen, you know what? Sometimes when you're ad-libbing, your voice finds you.
Okay. I can appreciate that. I appreciate those approaches.
Nice. So.
Nice. I liked it.
So, I mean, that's coming out in several forms. And so, we just like to address this. But I guess basically the questions, are libertarians really these unprincipled hacks who are, keyboard warriors that are talking about, screw the government, but when really push comes to shove, they're just gonna, if they even have a spine, it's gonna snap in half.
Short answer, yes.
And or to a lesser extent, are they hypocrites? Right? Are they saying, well, you get these principles of freedom and liberty and stuff as long as you agree with it? Basically, are we the same type of people that exist on the left and the right of, I want these good things to happen, but only if you agree with us. Does that apply to us?
Fools of us all.
Yeah, in many respects here, but I
can't see you from my pop filter.
I have 3 points I want to raise about this to really kind of shatter that. Again, I don't know if it's quite a meme yet. It's just kind of this glib response that's being passed around left Twitter and social media that's, basically calling out libertarians for not rushing to the defense of, not even straw manning. Some of these people are openly and unabashedly and unironically communists.
Quick caveat, I don't twit or
tweet would be the preferred nomenclature.
So if you're a tweeter, does that make you a twit? A Twitter? A twit?
I don't think they're a million miles removed.
What is the noun of being a tweeter?
Listen, I spend more time on...
I think I just made a noun. Tweeter.
I can only speak from personal experience. I spend more time on Twitter than I care to admit to.
This isn't even
the cesspool that it is.
This isn't even my distraction. My real distraction.
Well, expound.
I'll expound, my friend. I hear that there's like segments of Twitter. Like you just said, the left Twitter, and I've heard of Black Twitter.
Yeah.
And I've heard of a couple of different Twitters. Like, what the fuck's going on? Is it becoming its own ecosystem? Let's get to that point.
Yes,
first.
you're right. It's not the most precise use of language that I could use. And again, I pride myself on being precise because I don't like these catch-all terms, things like that.
Precision is...
So yes, I appreciate the request to clarify.
Okay.
So yeah, Twitter in and of itself as a platform, one giant pool. However, we all know that people, generally speaking, and I don't think anybody's immune to this, people generally like to build echo chambers.
Right, yeah, okay.
Some are more diverse than others in terms of the people they follow and listen to, but generally, you follow the people that are kind of saying what you already think,
right,
so to speak. So when I say left Twitter, it would be, people all the way from, and, just ignore this if these names don't make any sense to you, but would classify someone like Nancy Pelosi, who I think everybody knows, to somebody like David Sirota, who I think not a lot of people know, to Linda Sarsour. So those are three completely different people, but I think most people would look at it and be like, yeah, they're politically left. Versus, let's go the opposite way. Obviously, the Nancy Pelosi correlative would be Donald Trump. And somebody a little less known, but on Twitter might be...
Who's the guy that looks like a turtle?
Mitch McConnell. Okay, yeah, yes, Mitch McConnell. Maybe somebody a little less known, but still has a pretty loud voice in that respect. Maybe be like, Mike Cernovich or something like that. And then somebody that might be a little bit more fringy, alt-righty kind of thing might be... what's that kid's name?
We don't have to go this far down.
Anyway, point is, yes, echo chambers. That's what we're referring to when I say left Twitter.
Okay. So there's echo chambers within Twitter.
So yeah, I make it a habit personally. I make it a habit to follow as many different echo chambers as possible. Yes, if you looked at my follows list, it would probably be majority libertarians and things like that. Because I like to get good content and share it and support people that are of the like mind that I am. But I also follow, Hillary Clinton. And I follow Donald Trump. And
you probably should keep an eye on Hillary.
Well, she's keeping several eyes on me, I assure you.
Don't give yourself too much credit.
Yeah, you're right. I am a nobody.
We're only up to 7 listeners. We're not that big yet.
You just wait, Hillary. Wait till we get to 10. And we're really going to command
the tides will really shift.
So anyway, so that's what I'm referring to. Just the various echo chambers. Okay. And, in typical Dane fashion, way too much explanation for something that's quite simple.
It's fine.
So let me jump.
To be precise.
Yeah, that is true. Let me jump into this first point. Calling out libertarians. All I'll say is, in terms of your targets of who to be angry at, that like your comrades or compatriots are being jacked up off the street by federal agents, I would think of all the groups you would seek to target would not be the group that's been warning about this very thing for decades.
You don't even take our goddamn presidential candidates seriously.
Well, I mean, even besides that, just for example, in terms of these Twitter bubbles,
right.
If anybody on the left or right followed one libertarian voice over the last several decades, again, I know Twitter hasn't been around that long, but speaking in the analogy, libertarians have been the most vociferous and adamant.
Vocab word of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Vociferous. Vociferous.
And adamant opponents of state power for the explicit reason.
To vociferate.
Yes.
That's the proper
for the
use
explicit of it. Reason. And again, you can strawman or caricature any way you want, but you can't deny that you've heard libertarians always saying you don't want a super powerful government because if it ever turns against you, you're going to have a bad time.
You're going to have a bad day.
So if you're on the left and literally Hitler is sitting in office, yeah, bad things are going to happen to you. Conversely, if you're on the right and, literally Stalin is sitting in office, it's going to be a bad time for you. So the libertarian position has always been keep it small, keep it powerless, and this thing can't happen. And yet you incessantly mocked us all the way up until about yesterday where you expect us to run to your defense. Go ahead.
It's better to be at the right hand of the devil than in his path. Right?
How about better than cutting the devil's hands off so that if you ever find your way in
You
his
can't
path,
cut the devil's hands off unless you have the sword of justice, Dane. You know that, okay? Everyone
Well,
knows that.
You're right. And you know what? When a libertarian brings that up and says, you're never going to have the stateless society you want. All right, you might be right.
You have to be at least an 80 level mage to be able to cut off.
As a matter of practical application, whether you're right or wrong, the underlying principle still holds. To any degree less of the amount of power that a government has, if you can turn that knob to the left a little bit, as opposed to just cranking it to the right as hard as you can to get one over on your political opponents, that maybe you might have a better time if and when that government happens to fall into, in your words, evil hands. So, since you incessantly mocked that group for the last however many decades, and now you want to turn around and say, oh yeah, hey, that thing that we mocked you guys over that would never happen in America is now happening, and you guys are nowhere to be found. I don't think that's the first group you want to make your target.
Y'all laughed at us. Y'all laughed at us. Now you see where we're at. Is that right?
Yep.
How's that for...
And exactly. I don't feel like there's anything else I could say on this point. There's something else I want to say, but
Well...
I don't have to.
It should be one thing. It should be precise.
Yeah.
Okay. The
Okay.
less you say now, the less you'll have to apologize for later.
Yeah.
When we're gagged out with pussy hats on us.
Or vice versa.
We're sorry that we... With like a little... What would their gun be? What would a...
Okay.
I'm trying to think of like a
What they're
like a hostage situation where we're like got our hands behind our backs and we're like in a dungeon somewhere.
Like what are they torturing us with?
Yeah, exactly. Like what are they holding to our heads to make us talk? I know they've got like the pussy hats on us so we can't see. Like we're so scared. We're so alone.
I don't know.
They don't want any guns. They want to get rid of the guns.
They
so
make
what are they
us-
holding to our heads?
They make us listen to
Oh, they'll make us watch like Friends or something like that, or Will and Grace.
What's the name of that comedian's name who she was like so mad at Netflix or whatever because they wouldn't do her special? I think uncoincidentally she's related to like
You hit me.
Chuck Schumer.
You've hit me 3 times.
What's her name?
These acts of violence will not stand, Dave. What happened to your non-aggression principle?
Apologies.
I don't fucking know.
Amy Schumer. Right? You remember that?
What?
You remember that?
She said something
She was
that
like,
pissed
no.
everybody off.
She
That's why she didn't get the
said
Netflix
something to the
special.
effect. I don't remember if it was Netflix or, but she blamed somebody for the fact that she wasn't getting paid enough for her comedy, which she just thought was top notch. You know what I'm saying?
I think she made like some kind of. I don't know. I'm not gonna.
She's like.
I'm not gonna exfoliate on this topic. So.
Well, I would hope not. Anyway, point is the fact that she's Chuck Schumer's niece or whatever happens to be highly coincidental.
Yeah.
But just that mentality of like, no, I think in my personal subjective opinion, I'm funny, and therefore you should pay me according to that, and not according to what your customers think is funny.
Easy, Dane.
Like that mentality.
That soapbox looks a little flimsy up there.
So we'd be forced to watch like Amy Schumer stand
I
up,
thought she was
Hillary
funny.
Clinton, debate speeches and stuff like that.
Jesus.
That would be the torture.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, can I get back to the point now that we've...
Can I finish?
Can
I finish?
It's not even my fault
Can
for
I
the
finish?
detract or the
Okay, I'm
diversion
finished.
on this one. Okay, so here's my second point. Listen, you might think libertarians are stupid or utopian or whatever the case may be because their idea that, no government or as little government as possible is naive and blah, blah. Okay, think that all you want. However, I can assure you, at least as far as this one is concerned, and I think probably my co-host, I'm not naive enough to not know that if you in your position, your political persuasion that wanted to command your view of the world and everybody else had power, that you wouldn't do the same kind of stuff exactly to us.
To quote Dr. Seuss, if you ran the zoo,
Yes.
it's a good book.
I think that's poignant.
I mean,
I don't even
Doctor,
have anything to
it's
say
fucked
that,
up
'cause that-
how much older I
if
get,
you
how
ran
much
the-
more I start seeing
how
the
much more
world through
makes
Dr.
sense.
Seuss's eyes.
That's
I don't
good.
fucking want green eggs and ham, man.
Yeah.
Why don't you want it? I just don't fucking want it, and you can't force it on me. You know what? That's exactly what we're talking about right now.
I know.
Green eggs and ham. No, I don't want green eggs and ham.
You
Would you like it in a box?
You
Would you like it with a fox? No, I do not want it on a box, and nor with a fox.
Yeah.
Do not like them, Sam. I am.
Listen, you know what?
Fucking.
I
It's turned clearly.
I-
The ham is green. You shouldn't eat it at any time.
I can't decide if Dr. Seuss is more profound for writing that, or if you're more profound for picking up on it and making the connection to exactly what we're saying.
I mean, I'm gonna go with me every day, twice on Sunday.
You know, because like Amy Schumer, like you're the most
Check me
profound
out, dude.
person
I'm
ever,
pretty
regardless.
That's
of
a
what
new
anybody
phrase.
else
That's our
says, you
fifth
are.
T-shirt. Check me out, dude. I'm profound. I'm pretty profound.
Perfect.
And it's got an alliteration.
Listen,
Boom. It's a shirt.
listen, it's in the episode, so as far as we're concerned, we're gonna remember it, and it's gonna happen, and people are gonna look for it
Just
because they
look
love
it.
us.
We should start coming up with like bullshit shirts, so they're like scouring all 7 of them that listen to this. Like, I need that shirt.
Okay, so anyway,
They'll just make it themselves. Fuck you guys. Do you feel your mental sanity is crumbling just as quickly as your bank account?
have you been stung by a murder hornet?
Has your daughter walked into your study and informed you that she is a gender you didn't learn about in Biology 101?
Are you just a little bummed out that your life's work just got burnt to a crisp and annoyed that everyone keeps telling you that it's all right, you have insurance?
Well, we have a solution for you. Apocollection 2020.
What is Apocollection 2020, you ask? It's Weapons of Meme Destruction's first live event. For the low, low price of coming over to WMDpodcast.com and joining our email list, you can get access to the event. The email list is the only way in, as that is where we will share the Zoom link to the event. Come hang out with us on election night, November 3rd, 2020, as we watch the fall of Western civilization together.
Let's have a couple libations and a couple laughs to keep from crying. Apocollection 2020.
Jumping back into the episode for this
I love you, but fuck you.
non-commercial segment. Yeah, so we're not dumb enough to not understand that if you, again, based on your own rhetoric, right? People who aren't, property owners, a simple landlord is engaging in theft, and so damn it, take his property away. Like, listen, here's the thing. What's good about not being in my own self-curated echo chamber, because I follow a lot of your meme pages and stuff like that, I understand where your feelings lie. So, when you start calling landowners, thieves or whatever the case may be, and, the very concept of private property is theft, I understand that means that anything that I worked for in my life is subject to, if you had power, automatically and immediately belonging to you because, well, damn it, private property just means you're an evil, vicious person. And then even the home that you bought for your family is not exempt from state seizure. Yeah, I understand that is a very deep and integral part of your ideology. And so I'm not delusional enough to think that if you weren't sitting in the White House right now and you had that kind of power, that you wouldn't do it to people just like us. Not Republican, not Democrat. Even if we didn't self-identify as libertarian, we were just apathetic. But we stood up and said, you know what? I worked really hard for this house to, this roof to put over my family's head. And at any point in time, you can come and take it away from me because it's immoral in your ideology. Like, I'm going to feel a certain kind of way about that. So if you're saying, oh, these evil fascist dictators under Trump are, using the state power against us, we understand you're not making super fine distinctions. You're not saying, oh, Richard Spencer really believes in the superiority of the right race, but these libertarians just want to own a home and be left alone. And there's no difference between the two. They're both like white supremacist fascists.
To be clear, my co-host meant to say white, not right.
Is that not what I said?
No, you said right.
Okay.
Which would look very bad.
Yeah.
If we were to get clipped.
Yes. Oh, well, we're going to get clipped because, people hate our guts.
But there's already
explanations be damned.
There's already, examples of what you're kind of talking about because of, cancel culture. If it's not completely invented by the left, it's there might have been one Republican that overheard them talking about it when they came out.
I thought it was a good idea to do it too.
It's not my pig, not my farm.
Yeah.
Anyway, and kept walking. Dude, in cancel culture, when was the last time you heard of anybody that was canceled? There's no road back. There's no path to redemption. There's no I've grown as a human. I've changed. It's just you're fucking done. Good luck with the rest of your life.
You're right. You're
Bye.
right. You're right. And just as a very brief detour, and I'm going to say that at the outset, so you can jump in and stop me when I go too deep with this.
Oh boy.
Yeah, what you're explaining is the exact same mentality, if not the same ends, of things like the French Revolution. Which, if you ask any even marginally historically,
I don't know what the big deal was. I like cake. I'd eat it whenever you gave it to me.
all I'm saying is there's not a coincidence why the guillotine is spoke of in a positive light in terms of the politically left versus the politically right, is because the idea is the guillotine is the ultimate cancellation. Whether you're guillotining the king, right? Whether you're guillotining Louis,
there's never a comeback story from the guillotine?
No, not that I've heard of. Or
I think you might want to take that up with
Joel. Or fast forward a few years, you're guillotining Robespierre, who was instrumental in starting the French Revolution on the path that it was. What I'm saying is, like, the cancel culture ended up eating its own before the rest of the population starts looking around and going,
eating its own. You've never heard of a zombie story? Night of the Living Dead? That's like a return. There was never like a...
Yeah.
Well, fuck, I guess really that couldn't.
So...
Because, like, if you remove the head, you've already... How are they going to chase you? You know?
Well, yes.
Yeah. Unless their head sprouts a little leg.
Yes.
There's your comeback story right there. The little zombie that could.
Right.
I think I can.
All I'm saying is there's no coincidence, or there's no... It shouldn't surprise anybody why, you know, the modern day political left, who, you know, perpetuates the cancel culture, would look fondly on where most of the rest of the world that looks objectively at what happened in France was horrendous.
Let's also not forget too.
On neighbor
we're poking.
It was called the Reign of Terror for a certain reason.
The Reign of Terror.
This is the last time the French were terrifying. It was against each other.
And they didn't even win that war.
I'm sorry. Listen, if this podcast gets translated into French, I'm sorry. We love you.
Listen, if you're from France, we love you just the same.
Bygones be bygones.
Let's call a spade a spade. You guys haven't won a war since Napoleon, and that includes your own civil war. I don't know who won your civil war. I don't think there was a winner.
Well, Napoleon came after, but yeah.
Well, that's what I meant. Clearly.
Doesn't
matter. Anywho, fuck, I had another point that I wanted to get to. Oh, we're poking a lot at the left right now. We also need to start hitting the right, because they're the ones that are actually perpetrating the issue.
You're correct. And all of these points, please, again, if you haven't, pause right now, go back, rewind, and listen to from the beginning, and think about the premises that are underlying these points. You know, the first point of we've been warning you forever, you know, probably the ones that have been doing that and you've been mocking, you shouldn't be the first one to target. That applies equally to the right, because, again, just imagine if they're... well, you don't have to imagine it.
Well, under their auspices, this has started happening.
Well, look at how they talked about Obama, right? They would be like, Obama's a dictator, he's this, that, he's whatever.
This, that, and the other.
They talked about him as like, he has too much power, he's evil, he's this. So again, that first point that I made, yes, we're applying it to the left because they're the ones that are, quote unquote, out of power, at least relative to their mortal enemies.
Well, they always bring up Benghazi, right?
They're the ones that are in.
They always bring up Benghazi, right? Like, he let 4 people die, and he knew that they were going to die. Okay, cool. How many people died in Chaz? Just off the top of my head, 7 died within the first 2 weeks of them existing.
Okay, so you're going to say, like, he's at fault for not going in there? And
exactly. How could he let that happen on American soil?
Right, okay.
Like,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
You see?
Right, so yeah, the point, even though we're explaining it in contemporary terms, but all of these points apply to both the left and the right equally. So I'm glad you pointed that out, because that is a clarification I feel is not exactly unwarranted, considering, as we discussed on episode, 2 or 3.
Yep, that's one.
You know, I've been told before, you favor one side more than the other. Well, just understand the premises and the principles.
Sorry, Dems.
Yeah, 3. You know, apply equally to both sides. And the same is true for the second one, right? We're not delusional enough to think that if you'd have power, you'd do the exact same thing. again, we're talking to the left now because they don't have power, but we would be the same thing to the right during the Obama years. If you had power, you'd be doing the same thing. And oh, guess what? Fast forward 4 years, the right is doing that very thing.
No, Dane.
So,
Well, let's just call a spade a spade. All right, you don't agree with us on this topic? What's happened with the national debt since the right has had control of it? Have they stopped spending? All that they would say is, he's spending too much, our national deficit national deficit that. Our national deficit now is what, 10 trillion?
are you kidding me? 24.
Oh, where did it stop with Obama? Was it 7?
No, like 18
higher, right?
or so. But
18?
what I'm saying, in one term,
Right.
if Trump he's going to make Obama look like child's play in terms of the money he's spent if he gets a second term. That's the pace that he's on. So yeah, so when you complain, if you're on the right and you're complaining like, oh my God, government spend too much, Obama's spending all this money, fiscal conservatism, blah blah blah. But your guy's is outspending Obama like gangbusters, and you have nothing to say. Again, we've been warning about this mentality for decades. You've mocked and derided us, and now that it's here, you're expecting us to come rushing to your defense, not thinking that you wouldn't lump us in the same category. Again, if you're on the right, you would lump us in with liberals.
In fact, they've held us accountable. They said that if our
just
party
like
didn't
they would
exist,
do to us and lump us in with.
Look, they've held us accountable
alt-right
for every. Both sides have held the third party accountable for every time that the other side got fucking voted in.
It's Schrodinger's vote.
Exactly. We don't exist, but at the same time, we do exist.
If you vote for Joe Jorgensen, you simultaneously voted for Biden. If you actually voted for Trump, because you didn't vote against Biden, and
We've talked about this, Dane.
Sorry, and you actually,
for fuck's sake, put it on felt. Put it on something.
I forgot it was back there.
Shove it. You're gonna put it on another hard surface.
Dude, that was. I was in the middle of a really difficult mental.
I know, and you fucked you
because this is how stupid
you sniped yourself, son.
I have to think hard
we
about
have to go
the
back
logic
to Schrodinger's
these
vote.
people use.
We were talking about Joe Jorgensen.
Hold on.
And if we were
hold on, I know Schrodinger's vote. Okay. If you vote in this election's terms, if you vote for Joe Jorgensen, you simultaneously voted for Joe Jorgensen, the one you actually voted for. You simultaneously voted for Donald Trump if Biden does not get elected. See, you have to do the negative,
right.
because that's the way.
The
Yeah, if Biden does not get elected, you voted for Trump because you didn't support, the guy who actually had a chance. You wasted your vote on the third party. Or you voted for Trump if Biden did not get elected. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So, again, if that was hard for you to follow as a matter of formal logic,
speaking in negative,
just know that it was for us too. There's been studies on this. Not to go off on too much. There's been a study. If you say the exact same sentence and introduce a negative as opposed to just saying it in the affirmative, the comprehension goes down by like 70%.
Okay, so basically, to simplify it, when you vote libertarian, if the Republicans lose, they hold you responsible. If the Democrats lose, they hold you responsible for them losing.
Yes. Okay. You're right.
Boom.
You either voted for a libertarian or whichever side that lost, and you didn't vote for their candidate. If that's the most simple.
It's not whichever. It is.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, if Biden loses, that means that you
voted
for Trump because you voted for third party,
right.
And if Trump loses, it's because you voted for Biden because you voted for third party.
I've been accused of that.
Yes. So,
if we can't win for losing, how the fuck are we supposed to help you out now when you need help?
Yes, and again, I apologize. It took us like 3 minutes, but that's how stupid and circular this logic is.
And again, you still don't even take our fucking political party seriously. So what help do you want from a fictional party?
Seriously. Seriously, again, that gets back into the second, to finally finishing up this thought on the second point of, we understand that, you would do the same to us if you had power, because our vote doesn't matter anyway, because the fact that we want more liberty and a smaller government and actually stick to it and not, just say it like Republicans and vote for more and more deficit.
You know what just hit me? That's why we speak truth. That's because the only person that will speak the most truth is the one that knows that he's gonna die either way.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like,
Just having an epiphany.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying did you just have an epiphany like we've all had it before. Like I'm having it right here with you now
Right.
that you've said it.
Like, I mean, of course we told him that this shit was coming because we saw it coming because we were like, dude, you guys are like, the guy third partying like, oh, he's about to punch the other dude. Other dude doesn't know it's gonna happen. You should put your oh shit. Okay, all right. Okay.
Dude, that's listen, and I'm not even using these words loosely. Like that's a brilliant point to make on this topic because I mean it ties in with an experience we've all had in different settings.
Right.
And fundamentally that's what about communicating these ideas to other people is about. Is like listen, we've all been there. We may not have applied it to this situation, but we've all, but if you take David's analogy literally and you're like standing in the crowd and these two dudes about ready to throw bows and you're like,
and some dude's
you're like,
still talking while the other guy's shoulders are going up.
I know Jason has got one hell of a southpaw because I've seen him throw that baseball. And I know Johnny's setting up for a right because, you know, you assume everybody has a right. And Jason's going to come in and whoop his ass. Mm-hmm. The person standing on the sideline that has that information.
Well, what about the stupid fucks that like...
Watch out.
That like want to start a fight by like bumping chests and putting their arms down behind them and like sticking their chin out. It's like, you shouldn't do that. You're going to get chopped right... Oh, god damn it.
I don't know how good your opponent is, but I've seen YouTube videos.
I've seen people go night-night.
So yeah, so I think that's why the reason why it's a profound point is because with the way you started out explaining it, which I think still is practically true. The reason why you can trust somebody of a libertarian bent to be more truthful and honest,
break our arms jerking ourselves off, but
yeah, listen, I'm giving you the analytical framework. You can either disagree or saying I'm just trying to rationalize my own self existence. But all I'm saying is, you can trust the libertarian to be more honest with you on matters of politics, like what policies are they going to vote for or against, whatever. Because of just what David said, they have the least amount of,
we won't gain anything, we won't lose anything.
Because everybody's going to look at us as like, you're stupid, you're irrational, you're ignorant, you're whatever. We're going to be ignored anyway.
If I agree with you, you're going to think I'm the bee's knees until they forget about me.
Meanwhile, Republicans or Democrats are in a slugfest over power, which they can actually practically achieve because they brainwashed their two respective camps so much to think, well, if you don't vote blue no matter who, or if you don't vote for Trump, you're voting for Biden. Because they've convinced their tribes to do that, libertarians are like, Don Quixote. We're out here just tilting at windmills, and most of you are like...
I like Sancho Panza.
Most of you are like, who cares about them, whatever. But some of you might be willing to listen to the discussion and be like, well, maybe they're onto something. Maybe we should, think about some of the things they're saying, regardless of their prospects of political success. And all we're saying is, to finish this second, point, is no matter which one of you in the middle of the fight in the slugfest win, we know that if we started saying anything to the rest of the group about you, you would turn on us in a second. You've done it before. So why would we rush to your defense now?
We defended you just as much as the other side, and we defended the other side.
We were trying to defend you by retracting to point one, by warning you that this would happen to you if you kept, and again, to really bring this whole thing home to Portland in particular, the Trump or the law that Trump is using to do this, to make it legal, to quote unquote indefinitely detain American citizens without due process, was explicitly in the National Defense Authorization Act that was signed by Obama. So the power that Trump is using as quote-unquote literally Hitler to target your side of the political spectrum, which you're really, really bent out of shape about, was signed into law by President Obama.
Okay,
and when he signed it, he said, yeah, I understand this might be problematic in the future, but we really need to get the military funded.
But if I can
and none of you said a word.
If I can dumb this down for my IQ level for our listeners, it's like, to go back to the two dudes, like if if we're agreeing that you guys are the big, prowess people, and we're just some innocent bystanders or whatever analogy you want to go. You developed a nut kicking machine, and we were like, hey, if you're gonna walk over to that nut kicking machine, you might want to think about putting your balls away, and you didn't. So when your balls get whacked, you look at this like, why the fuck did my balls get whacked? Like, we told you.
Why didn't you stop me from my balls being whacked?
Right, exactly. And then when the other guy gets hit, you notice that I'm speaking in a higher voice. Why didn't you let me get my balls get kicked again? Well, high-pitched voice because you got knocked in the testicles. We told you that machine hit you right in the testicles, so you might want to put your balls away. Like, well, you didn't tell me that when he did it. Like, we told you both at the same time. Well, God damn it. And then here we are. There we go.
Yeah.
Now I've made everyone dumber. About 5 IQ points.
All right.
I've done my duty.
Last point. God, we've done it again, man.
Yeah,
We're already way over on episode length.
It's all right.
I hope people don't mind listening to the first half
So-
on the way into the office and the second half on the way home.
Just put a little pin in whatever the fuck David
Okay,
says.
well, in the meantime, we're going broke
When you're walking out.
funding these episodes that are so long. Okay.
We're writing the fucking. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Okay. And the last point that I wanted to make is the kind of, sometimes it's explicitly stated and sometimes it's just implied. They're asserting essentially that libertarians are hypocrites, right? Because libertarians have these principles of non-aggression, and they don't want anybody to be hurt. And when the government hurts people, regardless of how they feel about their difference of opinion or whatever, a libertarian wouldn't support it. And blah blah blah. And this is why you shouldn't listen to libertarians on their principles, because they really don't care as long as it's happening to their political enemies. That's kind of the general quick and dirty of what's being implied. Does that follow for you?
That's fine.
Right. If they're right, it's not a totally illogical statement. But let's talk about that. And again, a statement like that comes, and we talked about this in the Christopher Hitchens episode. You can only make a statement like that if you don't truly understand your opponent. This is how we know somebody who's making this claim, or at least implying it, has not read a page of libertarian theory. They think, again, like Hitchens did. They just say, well, libertarianism equals selfishness equals bad people.
Can
You don't understand what our
seeing as we're
philosophy is to be
calling
able to
back
make
to
this
it,
kind of statement.
Can we apologize for not knowing that Hitchens was no longer with us when we said that we should have him on
because
the podcast?
even we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't do
We
at
want
least
the-
that modicum of due diligence to make. Does he still have a pulse?
Let's let the memes in on this creative decision that we had to make.
I don't know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
So when
I'm
you first
excited.
brought it to my attention, because listen, full disclosure, personally, I won't speak for my co-host, but I had no idea the guy was dead. And when David told me, after we finished,
I even looked it up during the podcast and didn't notice that it said Till when I was looking him up.
Okay.
It was when I was editing it.
I'm glad he added that part, because that allows me a convenient out from my own ignorance to be
then
like,
you're
oh,
only-
I trusted David.
Oh, how
Don't tell
dare
him
you.
though. I don't want him to think
You're being
that,
so democratic
I
right
know
now.
that I'm not.
You're being so
fallible, but
democratic. I'm just a little libertarian over here.
Yeah. Okay.
Didn't even know we were doing that topic that day.
So anyway, since I knew exactly
Since David
that he
fucked
was,
up.
but I trusted David.
How dare you trust David?
Yeah, no. So totally flubbed that one up. And so the
Well,
creative
then I could always
decision was-
detract and say, well, he should have known that I'm a big dumb dummy, and he should have double checked my work, and he should have done his due diligence, and he should have known about the people that he's bringing up.
as you've heard, but because obviously if you're listening to these episodes in order, which we hope that you do, you will know that we didn't hold out that episode or reshoot it or whatever the case may be. Decided to leave the mistake in, be stupid, and explain it later.
And it definitely didn't
And
have
here
any,
we are.
and it definitely didn't have any financial implications or why we did it.
So if you turn that episode off knowing that he was already dead and that these guys are just assholes that are just hating on the dead, then you're
apologize.
definitely not hearing this episode, and this apology doesn't matter at all.
So we probably shouldn't have done this in
If
the first
you're
place.
here, you gave us the benefit of the doubt and was like, man, these
anything,
these are
we've cut
humans that make
ourselves-
mistakes,
We've cut ourselves off at the knees
but they can admit it.
with our own hands.
Okay. So after that brief detour,
This is why we
Understanding
can't
your
have nice
opponent.
things, and this is why every episode is fucking an hour long.
Yes.
It's because we do shit
This
like
is why we're broke.
well.
Chris, your prices are very fair and reasonable.
That and my
but we need to
addiction
learn to
other
shut up.
things as well.
Until, we can afford such lengthy episodes.
Can't get out of the whorehouses.
Anywho, so understanding your opponent. Big point Sun Tzu made a lot in The Art of War. Anyway, read it if you want. We'll put up an Amazon link. Go through that link so we can make some money.
If you've heard about it.
The point about knowing your enemy. Okay. Here's what you're getting wrong about the non-aggression principle. So the non-aggression principle essentially imposes an affirmative obligation onto each person, but it's really just a negative. But affirming an obligation onto everybody that says, listen, you can't harm anybody else. You can swing your fist as wildly as you want, but your right to do that stops at the point you make contact with somebody else's nose.
Or nuts.
Or nuts. Sticking with David's theme. So that's all. That's all. Just don't hurt anybody else. There is nothing implied, explicitly stated, or otherwise suggested in that principle that you have an affirmative obligation to go to the defense of somebody else. Now you might think, oh wow, if we applied that to, some morally ambiguous situation and you don't go help somebody out who's in distress, like that makes you a bad person. Okay, you're perfectly fine to make that moral judgment based on that, but just understand that somebody sticking to that principle is not violating that principle by not rushing to the defense of somebody else, even if that person's in distress.
Yeah, bitch.
So, now,
I'll just be a hype man from now on.
let's view that principle through the prism of being a human being, having emotions and feelings and all that kind of stuff. Okay? You have this principle, I must do no harm. But a group has mocked you, derided you, literally equated you with Nazis. Again, remember, the radicals on the left are not making any fine distinctions between the swastika and the snake on the Gadsden flag. If you fly the swastika, yes, you're a clear white supremacist, you're a bad person, whatever. If you're flying the Gadsden flag, you're at least white supremacist adjacent, right?
That doesn't make any sense.
So not making that distinction lets us know, and again, we know you don't make that distinction because we've seen your blog posts, we've seen your articles, we've seen your memes, we know what you think about somebody who just stands on the principle of, and I mean the principle of, not I'll make an exception for all my friends and I'll be extra harsh on all my foes, but a real principle of the concept of liberty. And that not everybody's entitled to the same outcomes, but they are entitled to the same opportunities. And how hard they work and meritocracy and all that kind of stuff will dictate somebody's life course trajectory. Somebody who stands on those principles is not going to make it a habit to come abduct you off the streets in Portland, or draft you and send you over to Yemen to die while killing innocent men, women, and children. Like a person who fundamentally and intensely believes in that principle of liberty is not going to do either one of those things to you. You might disagree with them on a whole bunch of moral questions, but what you can guarantee yourself is they're not going to be doing what's currently happening to communists, in Portland now, allegedly, and what obviously happened to anybody who was remotely interested in liberty in the USSR and Cuba and Mao's China and all that kind of stuff. So,
lest we forget our history too.
Go ahead.
All they have to do, you just brought up a topic that I wanted to get out and vomit out of my head before it fell out of my ears. You just brought up that they're supposedly arresting communists. You know what they also used to do?
Circles, yeah.
They also used to burn witches. They also used to federally indict and imprison.
I want this to be another episode because
Russians.
I want to talk about
all they have to do is label you as such, or nowadays it's terrorist, but now it's communist.
Right.
All they have to do is label you, and then once you're labeled, oh fuck me, you're done.
Right. That's what the war on terror is. That's why in true Orwellian fashion, if I know
Newspeak.
If you're at this podcast, you've probably read 1984, so this will make perfect sense to you. If not, please go read it. Great book.
Eerie.
when he talks about the war, right? Because the society is in a constant state of war, and they literally, through their political doublespeak, talk like being in the state of war is actually being at peace. And I mean, think about that in terms of, God dang, I can't say any more than this because this is a whole other episode. Yes, all I'm going to say is this is exactly
I already know the name of it. Guess who's back? Back again.
No. Well, anyway,
Orwell's back.
This is think about when the war on terror started with Bush. Think about what he said. If you're not with us, you're against us. Right? Now break down that sentence and really think about what's being said there. It's not just simple political rhetoric to divide people. I mean, it is that, but it's also something much deeper. It's saying that if you're not with us, if you're not in full-throated support of this quote-unquote war on terror, and that comes with all of the bombs dropped, no matter how innocent the victims, all of the money spent, all of the American soldiers' lives destroyed, and if they're lucky enough to come home, they get subpar psychological treatment, they get subpar medical treatment from the VA, and they can't even smoke a plant for some of the pain that they're in, because if they get caught with marijuana in the wrong state, they're going to jail as felons for possessing the wrong plant. Now, again, when you say something like, if you're not with us, you're against us, understand that these are all of the outcomes of both the war on drugs and the war on terror. Infinite wars that were never intended to be won. Back to Orwell. That's what he was talking about. You know, being in a state of war is being in a state of peace, because the war was never intent to be won. The war was intended to be perpetual, because the people who, you know, build all of the weapon systems that are involved in the military-industrial complex, and all of the politicians that are in their pocket that are getting paid off of it, all of the banks that fund both sides of these wars to make money hand and fist over it, every single one of these factors is what's involved.
If I had the button, you'd be hearing the music right now.
Okay, yes. Sorry. Wasn't going too far into that tangent.
We'll get into it on the next episode.
But just to finish that third point, listen, our obligation not to harm you is not an obligation to come to your defense. And when you look at that through the lens of being a human and what you've done to us, quote unquote, politically, for all this time, ignore us, mock us, say we're stupid, naive, say we're really in the pockets of the evil group on the other side. Again, both of you have done that to libertarians. Don't deny it. We have receipts. That when that's the way you treat us, and it's not a violation of our principles to come to your to not come to your defense. We don't have to come save you. We just can't harm you. That when you start getting hurt, do you think that we're really going to be bending over backwards and putting ourselves at risk to be abducted off the streets in unmarked vans and stuff? Are we really going to put ourselves on the line to do that for a group of people who have done nothing but mock us the entire time?
In The Watchmen, when the whole city looks up to us and screams, "Help us!" I'll gently whisper, "No."
Love it.
There you go. So, in case there's 2 people left, you want to tell them all the rhetoric?
WMDpodcast.com/12.
Okay.
Find us there or on all your podcast catchers. Please share us with your friends. Please come in the comments, talk to us and talk to each other. And check out the show notes page where we have all kinds of support and other articles to dig deeper into this topic. David, anything else?
Listen, I just want you to just be kind. Just be kind to your fellow human.
And rock out to this outro music.
Bye.